Bad guys kill people and heroes save the day. That's just the way it goes in the superhero game. Bad guys rack up huge kill counts in every MCU film, but not heroes, right? They're always doing the right thing and never, ever accidentally end the lives of innocent and guilty people on their way to defeat the big bad of the movie, right? Please tell us that's true. Well, sadly it isn't. It turns out that even with the best intentions, or something close to the best intentions, heroes end up taking a life. Or two, or... well, you get the picture. MCU heroes also have kill counts, so let's take a look at the ones who accidentally or purposefully made others meet their maker. Captain America might get the headline-grabbing sacrifice as the World War II hero that put a stop to Hydra, if only temporarily, but he wasn't the only one to face tragedy in that final battle. He also wasn't the only one whose death didn't take. Steve's bestie from the past, Bucky Barnes, fell off a train with Armanzola on board to a seeming death, but like his buddy Rogers, he was frozen instead. Also like his buddy Rogers, he was redrafted in the role of super soldier, but unlike his buddy Rogers, he worked for the bad guys. Barnes' mind was wiped and he was programmed to be an assassin until his buddy Rogers was able to remind him who he was and recruit him back to the side of the good guys. Unfortunately for Rogers and Barnes, people had a hard time buying it. As a good guy, Barnes did try and put his bad guy past behind him and forgo killing, even if Rogers had to help him achieve that goal now and then. But with 70 years of being a programmed assassin, the Winter Soldier racked up quite the body count. Perhaps most unfortunately, that count included a Mr. and Mrs. Stark. Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes have had a pretty good run as far as mortals go. Granted, most of that time was spent frozen in stasis or in ice, but they're the ones in the triple digits now, age-wise in the MCU. But for an Asgardian, that makes them mere pups. The mighty Thor is 1,500 years old by the time of Infinity War. That's 1,500 years of being Asgard's chief defender and heir to the throne. When we meet Thor, his brash, hammer first, ask questions later manner ends up restarting a war that his father had worked so hard to end. It turns out that included taking the child of the king of the frost giants as his own son. That son would grow up to become Loki, the god of mischief, which carried its own hassles. As Asgard's chief defender and a bit of a hothead, his magic hammer has cracked more than a few skulls. When the Nine Realms started wanting to renegotiate their standing with Asgard forcibly, Thor and his buddies, the Warriors 3, went back to putting down these rebellions. With 1,500 years of interdimensional space war under his belt, Thor has had plenty of time to rack up a body count. And then there's that entrance during the Battle of Wakanda. Many of the superheroes that populate the Marvel Cinematic Universe have a thing that compels them to put on their uniform and fight the good fight. It's either a sense of duty, or guilt, or ego, or a combination of all those things that takes them from mild-mannered to superhero. Then there's Bruce Banner and his alter ego, the giant, green, smash machine known as the Ever Lovin Hulk. Unlike the quiet and calm Bruce Banner, the Hulk is all rage and has nearly unlimited strength to work that rage out. When the Hulk rages, it's a crisis for just about everyone. Even the Hulk's teammates have to come up with their own Hulk management techniques. When talking about sunsets doesn't work, they have to pull out the big guns. The Hulk is so unpredictable that not one, but two bad guys' plans involved enraging the Hulk and letting him loose. The amount of collateral damage that the Hulk does took its toll on Bruce Banner by the end of Age of Ultron, and he heads off to be alone, but instead he gets recruited to be the Grandmaster's champion in the arena on Sakaar. It's hard to pin down the exact body count for the Hulk, but it has to be pretty high. Some of the heroes motivated by guilt have managed to feel like they have a ledger they can never balance. That was especially true for Natasha Romanoff. We only ever got glimpses of what the past entailed, but from what we saw, we know that it was pretty dark. When we do meet Natasha, her codename is the Black Widow, a deadly name for a deadly assassin. Of course, now on the side of the good guys, she's not killing much. Those guys who captured her at the beginning of the Avengers at the very least were gonna walk funny on the way home. But before she was doing whatever kind of lasting damage that follows her leaping onto people's necks and doing another flip, she was trained to be an assassin who'd use whatever means necessary to kill whoever her programmers wanted. She was apparently pretty good at it, so good that she got her sinister sounding nickname. The S.H.I.E.L.D. agent sent to bring her down, one Clint Barton, saw that she had potential as one of the good guys and called an audible, recruiting the trained killer instead of killing her. When Hawkeye recruited Natasha, he was giving her a chance to clear her ledger. As a spy and assassin, she didn't care who she was working for as long as she got to do some damage. With her new job at S.H.I.E.L.D., she was able to take those skills and use them for the good guys. Things were going fine for Hawkeye too. Sure, Loki tapped him with the Mind Stone and made him do some horrible things, not the least of which is attack his friends, but that was Loki's influence. Then Thanos came to town and snapped out half of existence, including all of Clint Barton's family. This was too much for Barton. Thanos was clear about his plan. Half of everything dies, completely random, rich or poor, good or bad. Barton didn't find that acceptable. He shed his Hawkeye moniker and took up the Ronin persona from the comics and started correcting what he thought was a mistake in Thanos' plan. He started killing bad guys, like a lot of bad guys. His family got Thanos, the bad guys got Ronin. He was so good at his job, he actually kind of freaked out his former teammate. But Barton didn't give up on Nat, so Nat didn't give up on Barton. With ancient warriors, soldiers, spies, and rage monsters, it might seem like getting on the scoreboard with the high kill count would be an exclusive club. But then again, simply hanging out with a superhero might bring you into situations that a seemingly simple normal life might not. That's certainly the case for the long-suffering Pepper Potts. As the executive assistant to the pre-Iron Man Tony Stark, he put her in a lot of uncomfortable positions. Getting rid of dalliances or teaming up with S.H.I.E.L.D. to get former business partners has nothing on when she encountered Aldrich Killian and advanced idea mechanics. Remember how AIM was part of Iron Man 3? Except with no Scientist Supreme or cool yellow lab suits, the Mandarin wasn't the only one who got shorted. The real villain was Killian and his extremist project that was meant to heal crippling injuries, but had the unfortunate side effect of turning the person into a bomb. The fine print is everything. Killian dosed Pepper with the formula to force Stark to help him stabilize it. This didn't work out for Killian. While the extremist didn't kill Pepper, Pepper did kill Killian. Of course, that's just one, but it's Pepper. She also racked up a few fending off Thanos' army as rescue. Captain America is the moral compass of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In fact, his insistence on doing the right thing has put him at odds with the people in charge almost as often as the bad guys. Since Captain America often finds himself fighting the power to force it to live up to its ideals, he's careful not to kill the people he's fighting against since they're just doing what they think is right. That doesn't mean that Cap always succeeds or even tries. Remember that Captain America is a product of World War II. While he still wore his War Bonds mascot look when he took up his mighty shield to fight against the Nazis and Hydra, he also got 4 real weapons of war to fight against a 4 real war. Not everyone was walking away from those fights. Even after the war, as he finds out that S.H.I.E.L.D. is just a cover for Hydra, he has to break a few eggs to make that freedom omelet. Like most people on this list, the actual body count is hard to determine, but crashing helicarriers down on the Triskelion was going to result in more than just a few funerals. Some Avengers and other MCU heroes have blood on their hands from them doing their killing personally. For others, it's more about who you are. When we first meet Tony Stark, he's demonstrating a brand new bomb for the brass in Afghanistan. It's such a good bomb that the terrorist organization that was hired to kill him kidnaps him instead and tries to get him to make them one. In a cave, strapped to a car battery. Yeah, it wasn't a good plan on any level. With Stark brought face to face with the pain and destruction that his weapons caused, he built a giant suit of armor instead and staged a dramatic escape. He's gone on to become Iron Man and privatize world peace. Not that he was done paying for the sins of the past, both from his dad and from him. A pair of twins stared at Stark Industries' logo on the unexploded bomb in their house, harboring a solid hate for the industrialist, enough to help a genocidal robot, also built by Tony Stark. Ultron carries on the Stark Industries' collateral damage to such a degree that one of the survivors of Ultron manages to successfully destroy the Avengers from the inside. The Avengers bill themselves as Earth's mightiest heroes, and with people like Captain America at the front of the team, there's at least an effort for the group of super spies and military industrialists to put on a good face and be the good guys, lead by example. Even then, that doesn't work out, and the Sokovia Accords became a thing. In a nearby galaxy, the self-appointed Guardians are less concerned with their good reputation, unless it increases the fees that they can charge to guard someone. The Guardians of the Galaxy are a bunch of rogues who found that the bad guys were too hard to work with, seeing as they wanted to destroy the galaxy that the Guardians were in. So they took up the good fight with a bad fight swagger. It also means when they fight, they're not overly concerned with the well-being of who they're fighting against. Is Rocket trying to build himself a robot out of pilfered prosthetics? While it was done in defense of the planet Xandar, they brought down the Dark Aster in such a violent crash that one of their own had to sacrifice himself to save the rest of the team. Aww, but it gave us Baby Groot, so it's not all bad. Yondu was a late addition to the Guardians team, and his tenure wasn't exactly lengthy. But it was his affection for the little Earth kid that moved his needle ever so slightly from bad guy to good guy, if only at the very end. He starts off being someone who'd go even further than even the Ravagers are comfortable with, kidnapping Ego, the living planet's children, to see if they contain the power of the Celestials. But with the excuse that young Peter Quill can fit into small places and probably isn't tasty, Yondu holds on to the kid, sometimes favoring Peter's well-being over the crew's. This eventually results in a mutiny and forces Yondu to join Peter and the Guardians in their fight against Ego and the Sovereign. On his way to join that fight, however, he first goes on a whistle-stop tour with his Yaka arrow, making it rain Ravagers. And just to make sure the job is done, he overloads the engines and destroys the entire ship. You don't cross Yondu, apparently. Of course, before he joined the Goodish guys, he wasn't using that Yaka arrow to knit. The Earth is sitting in a bit of an unfortunate spot. We may be Midgard to the Asgardians, but for the Kree and the Skrull, we're the halfway point in their millennium-long war. Also, we were housing an Infinity Stone or two. The Kree Marvel was specifically interested in the Tesseract, otherwise known as the container for the Space Stone. She was trying to develop an engine that didn't need space portals to travel faster than light, so that she could help Skrull refugees escape the war. Instead, the project blew up in her Earth test pilot's face, giving her some pretty impressive cosmic powers and not much of a memory. The Kree recruited her, told her she had to control her powers, and then did that for her too, using her as a weapon in their never-ending war. While she regarded the Kree, at least for a while, as warrior heroes, they were still warriors with all that entailed. But when she takes the training wheels off her superpowers, she becomes a missile that could easily rip through spaceships. This means everyone on the two Accuser ships and whoever was left on Sanctuary 2, Thanos' ship, probably all died at her hands when she showed up fashionably late to the Thanos party. It's gotta be a lot of pressure to be a good friend of the good Steve Rogers. He's so upstanding that you might start feeling guilty for using too many paper towels after you wash your hands. He's a big standard to have to live up to, and that's not just because he's one of the few superheroes worthy enough to wield Mjolnir. His best friends in the modern world are an assassin turned super spy, a soldier turned assassin, and a former experimental forces member with a sweet jetpack. Just don't call it a birdsuit. Everyone has to have a gimmick. When Rogers meets Sam Wilson, the man who'd become Falcon, he's counseling soldiers, helping them make the transition back into civilian life. It's the kind of upstanding, helping others kind of thing that impressed Captain America. He joins Captain America in taking down the Hydra-infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., but before that, like Cap himself, he was a soldier, with all that being a soldier entails. In the case of Wilson, he's close to Captain America not in spite of that, but because of it. Wilson carries the responsibility and weight of what he does as a soldier in a way that squares with Cap's ideals. Captain America isn't the only member of Earth's mightiest heroes that has a bestie in the military. Tony Stark's longtime friend and military liaison, Rhodey, does the job for Tony Stark that Captain America does for everyone else, nudging Tony towards doing the right thing. When he can't do that, he takes up a suit of Tony's armor himself, becoming War Machine and eventually Iron Patriot. Whatever you call him, he was the American government's supersuited soldier. When duplicating the suit became difficult, he became the military's only supersuited soldier. While Tony might focus on privatizing world peace, Rhodey still works for the brass. Well, until Thanos came to town and Thunderbolt Ross still wasn't willing to let things go. When it comes to Tony and Rhodey, they tend to end up fighting drones and robot copies, but off-screen, he's doing military work. In fact, in Age of Ultron, he explains where he was during the Battle of New York, saying he was in Asia delivering destroyed tanks and one-liners to rogue generals. Like Wilson, Rhodes is a military man, and military conflicts have casualties. Fighting drones must be a welcome change. Thanos had a lot of bad ideas. His plan to save the universe was sort of half-baked. Get it? Half-baked? Because he wanted to dick out half of life? Yeah, moving on. His first plan to achieve his goals was to trust a guy whose job title was God of Mischief with the Mind Stone so he could get the Space Stone. He not only didn't get the Space Stone, but he lost the Mind Stone. Before it ended up embedded in the head of Vision, it was used to enhance a pair of Sokovian twins with powers. Pietro's power was pretty straightforward. He was fast. Wanda is a little bit more of a mystery. She's able to move things with her mind, but also give people visions based on what's already in their head, but it only really comes up that one time. It's enough, though, to unleash the Hulk on a city. As an official Avenger, She joins Cap, Falcon, and Black Widow chasing down Crossbones, who has other plans. Before she could clear the ticking time bomb that Crossbones had turned himself into, the bomb went off, destroying a building full of people in the process. The incident would end up spurring what would become the Sokovia Accords. While most of these heroes have taken lives in the course of their duties, they all try and avoid it, or at the very least, it's not the goal they have when they leave to fight the good fight. For most of them, the loss of life weighs on them. That's definitely not the case for Frank Castle, the grand champion of MCU body counts. Where other heroes try to spare a life if possible, sparing a life is considered a failure for the man known as the Punisher. As he tells Daredevil, when the man without fear puts someone down, they get back up. When the Punisher puts someone down, they stay down. The Punisher has more kills than some of the people on this list in just his first episode on the Netflix Daredevil series, when he erases the entire Irish Mafia from Hell's Kitchen. By the time he makes it out of the second season of Daredevil, he's racked up a body count that causes its own trial of the century in New York. And he still had 2 whole seasons of punishing ahead of him. Those who survive fare worse. We can't even show you what he did to Jigsaw. Those are some of the MCU heroes with the highest kill counts. Who do you think has the most kills? Who else has a few funerals in their wake not on this list? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, make sure to subscribe to CBR. It's completely safe, we promise. Thanks for watching.